information about soy-based foods, their effects on women who may be at risk for breast cancer. It's been so confusing. Is it good for us? Is it bad for us?
Soybean oil is found in almost all the processed foods.
Soybean oil is one of the most widely consumed cooking oils, but new research from the University of California, Riverside suggests that a diet high in soybean oil causes more obesity than a diet high in fructose. In an experiment with mice, those mice on a high soybean oil diet gained twice as much weight as those that consumed the equivalent of fructose. The soybean oil consuming mice showed evidence of metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions that increase the risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes.
Soy is one of the rare foods that's actually attached to being a bitch.
That's a pussy food?
If you're a guy who's really into soy lowers your testosterone. It produces estrogen-like activity in the body, mimicking the effects of natural estrogen.
You can grow titties off of soy?
Not quite, but it might feminize you.
Soy is in everything. It's in protein bars, chocolate, sports drinks, bread, cakes, crackers, infant formula, hamburger patties, french fries, chips, fried chicken fried in soybean oil, ice cream, margarine, cereal, canned soup, taco seasoning, salad dressings, gravy mix, bottled smoothies, candy, popcorn, mayonnaise, peanut butter, processed meals, and chewing gum. You can't go a single day without eating a little bit of soy. And that little bit of soy adds up over time. Our nation has become dependent on it because it's not just in food, it's in everything around you, like soap, crayons, paint, pet food, printer ink, rubber, vitamins, and candles. There's a 99% chance you use something today made of soy. But why soy? Why else? It's ridiculously cheap. And over the years, the big food companies have quietly swapped natural, expensive ingredients for soy. Because why put all that hard work into feeding grass to your cows when you can dump some moldy soy into their trough? Why fry French fries in healthy fats like beef tallow when you can fry them in disgusting cancer-causing soybean oil for 1/10 of the price? And why sell someone an actual real beef burger when you can sneak in some TVP, texturized soy protein, as a filler? Americans have been soyified. But eating beef patties with little soy filler, chugging 38 pounds of soybean oil a year, and growing up on a diet of soy baby formula is not normal and can lead to higher rates of cancer, birth defects, and low testosterone in men.
Soy is one of the most heavily subsidized crops by the United States government, and it has estrogen-like effects on the human body. Too much soy leads to enlargement of breast tissue in men, water retention, female pattern fat deposition, and mood swings. This is according to studies. And studies have found that soy isoflavones heighten antisocial behavior in monkeys and appear to feminize male animals in animal studies. So again, we've seen this in animal studies, the negative effects of soy and how it causes them to have more feminine-like qualities. That's not a good thing because it also decreases their lifespan.
Humans were never meant to eat this much soy, especially not this much genetically modified soy that is soaked in pesticides. And yet, Big Food found a way to stuff it into every single one of our meals, with some people even getting fooled by Big Food into basing their entire diet around soy, around a cheap commodity grain that was barely meant to be eaten in the first place. Welcome to Evil Food Supply, and this is why soy is in everything. If Big Food dumps cheap, synthetic junk like soy into your food, imagine what they're slipping into your dog's kibble. Soy fillers, synthetic vitamins, fake meat flavor, artificial preservatives. The cheap stuff they put into your dog's kibble should be criminal. But luckily, fixing your dog's diet is as easy as pie thanks to today's sponsor, Sundays for Dogs. Sundays is made with 100% human-grade, air-dried ingredients. It's packed with real muscle meat, organs, and superfoods. Zero synthetic vitamins, no artificial preservatives, and definitely no soy fillers. So that you can make sure your best friend is as happy and healthy as possible, while all you have to do is scoop and serve. No fridge and no prep. Dogs are evolved to eat meat, not a bowl of additives and cheap grains. That's why Sundays has 3 recipes to choose from: beef, chicken, and turkey. And you can customize a plan for your dog so they get exactly the right amount of food and variety nature intended. Sundays has over 1,700 5-star reviews, with many reporting softer fur, fresher breath, better digestion, and just happier dogs overall. Plus, Sundays was founded by a vet and a dog parent themselves, not some faceless food corporation trying to cut costs with soy. So give your dog the upgrade they deserve by clicking the link below or use the code EVILFoodSupply at checkout to get 50% off your first order. That's 50% off your first order with code EVILFoodSupply by clicking the link below. Back in the early 1800s in America, soy didn't even exist. Sure, people in Asia were eating it and drinking traditional soy milk, but it definitely wasn't the genetically engineered, pesticide-filled chemical concoction that it is today. But when a Yankee clipper ship brought the first soybeans into the US in 1804, Americans became fascinated. They just saw it and thought,
Hey, that's new. That's interesting. Never seen a bean so high in protein before. Hey, let's feed it to our cattle.
and so farmers across America started feeding these mysterious new beans to their farm animals, and the results were amazing. Because the soybeans were so high in phytoestrogens, the cows got super fat super quick, which meant farmers were able to sell more meat than ever before. It was a miracle. This new, mysterious bean from Asia was causing the American meat profits to explode. And then, the age-old question arose. If we can feed soybeans to animals, can we feed them to humans? The cows like it, so couldn't hurt to try. And then, the experiments began. George Washington Carver, famous for promoting peanut butter, did studies on soybeans showing how healthy and high in protein they are. And with this research, food companies all over America started adding soy to their recipes. Kellogg's released a corn soya cereal, and A.E. Staley released soy flour. They put soy meal in sausages, sold boxes of soy grits, and baked soy bread. And so, a new category of food was born.
If you could see through yours like I can see through mine, well then you'd be frying chicken just as light as mine.
Soy meal and soy flour can only take you so far. Sure, it'll bulk up your recipes and give it an extra protein punch, but no one loves the texture of milled soy. Even you knew that. And as a CEO of a major soy processing plant, you wanted to take soy to the limit and squeeze every last cent out of those bland, mealy beans. So you got a little crafty and did some experiments on the soybean. You wanted to dissect it into something new, something that would make you filthy rich. Oh, and maybe help society, but we'll see. And through your experiments, you discovered that soybeans make a flawless cooking oil. And sure, normally soybean oil was used to lubricate machinery. It was never eaten by humans, not even by animals, because it contained a deadly toxin called gossypol. But you couldn't resist. It was a perfect food product just sitting there, doing nothing. So you cleaned it, bleached it, deodorized it, and sold it under the name vegetable oil.
The question is, how can you make all those foods you love in a way you can feel better about? Chef Bert Wolf. Here's one good answer, Crisco oil. You see, when you're cooking with oil, you want to cut back on saturated fat. Compare Crisco to ordinary vegetable oils. Crisco has less saturated fat, 25% less. Crisco looks light, and there's no heavy oily taste.
And the whole world fell for it. Later, soybean oil would annihilate the health of Americans and literally be the leading cause of heart disease. More on that in the demonization of red meat video. But you're not creating mutant soy products for health. You just want to sell as much soy as you can. And down the line, you created more mutant soy products like soy lectin, a gummy emulsifier made from soybean oil that's linked to digestive disorders and lower brain function in mice. But again, you just couldn't resist. Soy lectin was a miracle product. Not only did it make chocolate, ice cream, and peanut butter smooth as silk, it made them last forever on the shelf, which meant more money for you. Because the longer it's on the shelf, the more likely someone will buy it. So, soy lectin was a must. Soy lectin is used in baked goods, chocolate, instant drink powders, soft drinks, pharmaceutical pills, animal feed, and, of course, cosmetics. From lotions to creams to serums to foundations and lipsticks. And as the years went on, people ate more and more soy until it totally took over the food supply.
Gerber introduces our next generation of formula. Can't you make something that's closer to breast milk? A new formulation that's even closer to breast milk than before.
Who else can I trust my baby to?
Introducing new, improved Gerber baby formula.
And if my doctor recommends a soy?
So while people over in Asia were eating moderate amounts of soy, America was going full soy. Not only were farmers feeding their animals soy by the barrel full, but humans were getting in on it too. And because of World War II, it was kind of perfect timing. During World War II, expensive foods like meat and milk were being rationed. So even if food manufacturers didn't want to switch over to soy, now they had no choice. They had to start making new, cheaper versions of their foods using soy. They made soy meat patties, soy salad dressings, and soy ice cream. They added soy flour to soup to boost the protein, and even sold roasted soybeans as a coffee substitute, which we're sure tasted great. And to make sure every man, woman, and child eats soy with a smile, the USDA released a cookbook titled Cooking with Soya Flour and Grits. And with the public now accepting soy as food, all kinds of soy-forward products were landing on grocery store shelves, like Crisco, an animal fat substitute made from cottonseed and soybean oil, and Johnson & Johnson's Sobe, a baby formula made of soy. Wow, we can't wait to feed our infant that. Ugh. Henry Ford even modeled a soy protein fiber suit for a magazine and built a car out of soy-derived plastic. Yeah, soy was pretty hot. And hey, no big deal that in China, soybeans were never eaten unless they were fermented, and mainly used as a crop to moderate nitrogen levels in the soil. But American big food companies really didn't care. It looks like food, so we'll convince the masses to eat it. Everyone was hooked on soy. The food manufacturers loved it, the public loved it, the animals accepted it as their feed. And as the years went on, soy became bigger, better, and cheaper. All thanks to our favorite bioengineer. So it's the early 1990s, and the soy train, it's still running. Americans see soy as good for them, and a lot of them are replacing their dairy with soy alternatives. And as a big soy manufacturer, this felt like the dawn of your golden age. Because people aren't buying soy because it's cheaper or there's a war, they're buying it because they prefer it. And this is why you need to make soy bulletproof. You need to make it even cheaper and easier to grow than it was before. You need to make every bean flawless so that your cheap, nutritionally void soy foods will be perfect every single time. So here's what you're gonna do. Knock on the door of everyone's favorite company, Monsanto. You know, the guys who made Agent Orange, the chemical that killed thousands of people during the Vietnam War and caused birth defects for generations. Yeah, those guys. And ask them to zhuzh up your soybean. Make a soybean, but better, you ask. And Monsanto probably said, say no more. Monsanto took your humble soybean and genetically modified it into something new, improved, and soy lucrative. This new Monsanto soybean would be immune to glyphosate, the key ingredient in Monsanto's Roundup Ready herbicide. So instead of farmers having to manually pull weeds from around their soy plants that keeps them from growing, they can spray both the weeds and soy with Monsanto's very own Roundup Ready herbicide. And the weeds will die, but not the soy. Told you, bulletproof. And sure, now the soy is covered with a film of toxic herbicide that's linked to cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and liver inflammation, but that didn't really matter to you, and it didn't matter to the farmers at the time. And it definitely didn't matter to Monsanto, because now you owned the soy market. Almost every farmer in America wanted these bulletproof soybeans. And because this soy was so perfect, it would make the perfect soy food products, like Impossible Foods plant-based burger, Soylent meal replacement, and all of these foods. By 2002, 75% of soybeans planted in the US would be genetically modified. And with every bite of soy, Americans were taking in small amounts of cancer-causing, endocrine-disrupting, kidney and liver-damaging glyphosate. Around 1 decade after planting GMO soy, the farmers started to notice something strange happening in their fields. The weeds that would usually get wiped out from Roundup weren't dying anymore, and bigger super weeds were growing in their place. Yeah, this was a huge problem. The weeds that were being killed off by the Roundup were growing back bigger and bigger every time. So who better to call than Monsanto again? And so Monsanto swooped in with their next big GMO product, dicamba, a herbicide that's even more powerful and more toxic than Roundup that will annihilate these mutant superweeds. And there's a reason why you've never heard of dicamba. Monsanto also came up with a new dicamba-resistant soybean for farmers to use. And the farmers had no choice but to comply. Their fields were turning into a scene from a horror movie. So they planted the dicamba-resistant beans, sprayed it with the crazy toxic herbicide, and everything seemed to go back to normal. But those beans, they were still covered with toxic herbicide. And it was just as bad, if not worse, than Roundup. And all those innocent people eating your soy products were poisoning themselves and didn't even know it.
The danger of dicamba is it's a very volatile compound. It simply will not stay put. It'll go to a gaseous state and literally rise up above the crop that it's been applied to. And then the slightest bit of wind can move it off target, and whatever it settles on, it kills. Whether that be another farmer's soybeans, my fruits or vegetables, or a home gardener's garden.
GMO soy can ruin your health. One study showed that pigs who were fed GMO soy were born with holes in their heads, leg atrophy, and genital malformations. One pig was even born with just one eye. And in another study, rats who were fed genetically modified soybeans had a higher death rate than those fed non-GMO.
They volunteered to be fed GM soy starting 2 weeks before they got pregnant and continued eating the soy through pregnancy and lactation. And more than half of their babies died within 3 weeks compared to a 10% death rate when the other rats were fed non-GMO soy. The rats were also smaller and could not reproduce.
And it's not just animals who get affected by it. A government report showed that people who lived near areas that are sprayed by Roundup have higher rates of birth defects and cancer.
All I'd like to say is to Monsanto is take responsibility, label it as carcinogenic. Maybe other people won't get sick, but I know Roundup's what caused my cancer.
Thousands of others nationwide claim the Roundup caused their cancer.
Some even claiming it caused the death of their loved ones.
Things were looking bad, and this is when you had a brilliant idea that turned it all around. It was the late 2000s, and people were starting to find out just how toxic these soybeans were. People were starting to question this idea of GMO soy, not to mention the toxic cloud of herbicide that was drifting over their towns. There were protests, documentaries. When Americans would buy something with soy in it at the store, they started asking, is this GMO?
It makes me wonder why people are buying it, because it's oat-based, but they're also putting GMO soy protein isolate.
You had to do something to change the public view on soy, and fast. Otherwise, you can kiss your precious empire goodbye. So you made sure everyone knew the soy you used in your products were GMO-free. You put that label everywhere, on your website, back of the box, everywhere you could to make sure that the public knew you didn't use any dirty GMOs. But is non-GMO soy better? No! Any kind of soy is bad for you. Because remember, soy has phytoestrogens in them. Phytoestrogens are naturally occurring plant compounds that are structurally similar to estrogen. One scientist in Canada found that boys who ate high amounts of soy early on in life had smaller testes compared to boys who didn't. They also had low libido, low testosterone, and erectile dysfunction. And another study showed that rats who were fed soy flour for 7 weeks developed huge goiters on their thyroids, which is an organ that regulates the hormonal system. Soy was also found to cause reduced fertility and abnormal embryo development in female mice, and abnormal growth of breast cells in male rats, also known as man boobs. There's a reason why men aren't as manly as they used to be. And it might be because they're eating way more soy than they should. But it's not just these hormonal effects you need to worry about. Soy also has phytic acid, which acts as a nutrient blocker. So eating soy may block minerals like iron and zinc from absorbing into your body. So what's the point of eating it at all?
This tastes like cardboard that was left out in the rain.
There's definitely dirt in here. You can really taste the chickpea husks.
So, hold on. How did millions of Americans get conned into loving soy? This never gets old. It's all thanks to our wonderful, kind, always there when you need them, government. See, our government wants us to be eating as much soy as humanly possible. The corn and wheat, too. Why? Because soy, corn, and wheat are economy crops. Which means when crazy things happen like floods, disasters, or wars, and food is scarce and food prices go up, these economy crops will come to the rescue and prevent panic. That way, instead of buying their usual steak for dinner, citizens can just enjoy that texturized soy protein loaf thingy or that brick of fake cheese instead, and they won't bat an eye. Having these economy grains branded as health foods is like a type of insurance for the government to prevent riots, revolts, and scary things like that. We don't want things to ever get that far. So we'll just feed them these nutrient-void, toxic grains instead. And that is why soy is one of the most subsidized crops in America, with over $44.9 billion in soy subsidies from 1995 to 2020. Which means they take money out of your pocket and give it to soy farmers. And we're not talking about that cute little family soybean farm over there. These soy subsidies benefit large-scale industrial soybean farms the most. And since these subsidies create more soybeans on the market, soybean prices go down. Not a big deal for a big industrial soybean farmer, but that little family farm over there, how could they possibly compete? And so our food supply gets consolidated more and more.
Soy has phytoestrogens. That means that they have components, they have chemicals in it that mimic the body's hormones. So they fit into receptor sites and they can start changing your body's balance. And in large amounts, this creates problems. And if you're concerned about your health, you want to stay as far from those as you can.
Soy is not meant to be consumed in high amounts, especially not this genetically modified, chemical-covered crop that it is today. And yet, in America, it's in almost everything we eat. Even if you don't eat soy-based products, if you eat any processed foods, chances are you're ingesting a steady stream of soy into your body. It's unavoidable.
You can't concentrate when you're hungry. Eat a Snickers.
This is why reading the labels on the food you buy and the food you have in your house already is so important. Once you build a habit of reading labels, you're gonna realize just how toxic every modern processed concoction is. You're gonna see for yourself how soy is in everything, and you'll naturally gravitate towards whole foods like fruit and meat. And even though fruit is super high in nutrients and one of the best things you could eat, not all fruit is created equal. Some of the fruit grown in the US is pumped full of antibiotics and pesticides. Surprising, right? And there's a specific type of orange that we'd suggest you stay away from because of how many chemicals and antibiotics are used on it. And this is a variety of orange that's sold in most grocery stores across the US. We reveal this orange variety, as well as safe options in our most recent Evil Food Insiders newsletter. We do the research on these things, so you don't have to. Just click the card on the screen to subscribe. This newsletter is where we update you on breaking news about our food supply, just like this, way faster than we can make a video on. So to get our newest email on which oranges to avoid, click the card on the screen.